Monday through Friday, live at 5 on the Evil Hippie Network and Rumble and YouTube. Check us out, subscribe on both of those cats. What a jam-packed show. Hopefully we'll have Susan Shelley on, as we usually do, on a Wednesday. I think she had something else to do last week, so we skipped a week there, but she should, knock on wood, be back at the bottom of the hour when we join the Mighty Met KME2. Talk about maybe the Biden-Harris stuff and her usually once or twice a week columns in the Southern California news group. Of course, most of the news is getting dominated by Donald J. and Kamala going on here. So I'm hearing myself twice. There we go. Quite a show. Quite a show in Chi-Town today, among others. We might get into a little bit of the Gavin Newsom stuff. He's trying to chime in. Well, they're having X-Wars between Gavin, on top of that, between Gavin and Donald J. and many other things going on. What we got going on is this. You know, there's nothing probably worse than a mouthy broad. They can't back up what she's saying. Of course, the whole debate deal was going on, and Donald Trump agreed 100% to Joe Biden's terms for 2 debates. He showed up to the first one. Unfortunately for Joe, so did he, as it goes. But Kamala's was on the trail, and now that she's thinking she's red hot right now and she can do no wrong, her S doesn't stink and all that stuff. She was in Atlanta, Georgia yesterday, and yeah, they had some hip-hop artist, whatever, yada, 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 rolling in there. Got a big crowd in one of the buildings over there and looking fine. From the reports I had, within 10 minutes of the start of Queen Kamala speaking, it was exit stage right. The audience was saying we've had enough of this noise. But here, in Miss Harris's own words, from the ABC7 report. Here we go.
Closing in on her political rival, who is wavering on debating her in September.
Well, Donald, I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say,
I think we should say, Kamala Harris, you're fired. No promotion. We're going to take back this country and elect Donald J.
Yes, we are. We're taking back this country and we're going to elect Donnie J of that. So where's the 2 debates? Joe's out. You're in. Unless you're going to stand on everything Joe said. You're willing to do that, sweetheart? They ought to have a debate every week in September, because early voting starts in October, well, at least 30 days, October 4th, 5th, maybe 6th in California. I think there may even be a state that rolls off earlier than we do. It would not surprise me, but I know at least 30 days out. So let's have a debate. Your convention's in August or late in August, so let's get you through your convention or whomever the Democrats are going to nominate. And then let's have 4 debates in September, 1 every week. One should be Lincoln Douglas style. 2 hours, 30-minute blocks each one for 2 hours. You ready to let it rip, Kamala? I rather doubt it. In fact, I would probably lose the farm if she accepted those kind of terms. But again, it's disingenuous to go across this whole spectrum that they've been doing. And I think the American people are getting tired of it. The polls are not going their way. She's only gained one in the 10 days since Joe dropped out, and then she became, everybody in the Democratic hierarchy finally fell in line. But Joe endorsed her 10 days ago to take over. She's only 1%. Trump is exactly the same in all the national poll averages. He's still at 48%. Joe was at 45, she's at 46. She's gained a whole 1 point, mainly black women. That's the only demographic so far in the last 10 days that has moved. You don't see him do the crosstabs or anything on these phony polls or anything or explain the ideology of it, and you won't, because it's phonier than a $3 freaking bill. Lock, stock, and barrel. This is the big one. And this is why and you're going to see Donnie J rolls it out there. There's supposed to be a forum in Chicago, in the black neighborhood, 3 black women reporterettes from the media. Biden was supposed to be there. Trump was supposed to be there. Trump showed up today. No mouthy Kamala. Here's the beginning question from Rachel Scott of ABC 7. Here we go.
Start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't.
Donnie J is 100% right. That was not a question of the former president, candidate for the Republican nomination, and likely winner to be the 47th president. That was a political hatchet job. And you're going to see this, where's Miss Little Rachel Scott saying, where's Kamala? Kamala was supposed to, if Joe Biden backed out and you're saying you're standing in for him the debates, you're the nominee, you're the queen, kiss your ring, then why weren't you in Chicago, in the hood, facing your black brothers and sisters that you claim and you want to use the race card? And when they're saying, and they're going to the Chicago aldermen and stuff and saying, what the hell is about this whole border crisis, and you're shipping them here and here, and you, Miss Border Czar, in charge. Why didn't you have guts enough to go into the hood of Chicago and back it up more? From Donnie J.
Even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. Done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here.
They told Trump his opponent was going to be here. Kamala's out there mouthing off, diarrheaing of the mouth. Here it is. Donald, I hope you will reconsider meeting me on the debate stage because, as the saying goes, if you got something to say it to my face. She said that yesterday in Atlanta. The next day in Chicago, little Missy over here doesn't show up to face Donald J. so he can say it to her face. That's how two-faced this little witch is you see sitting over here. I said we're not pussyfooting around in 2024. If they're going to play this game and they're going to do Trump and they're going to call, what's her name, Usa Vance, and their two little children, two mom and dad and two kids, weird, and they got what, Rachel and the transgender dressing guys in the dress and the bald head and all the crap going on in the Biden-Harris administration. Whatever that admiral is, it's one day he's in a dress, one day he's in a suit. Oh, that's not weird. That's what they want you to believe. That's the new normal. A mom and dad and two kids, that's weird. Creating jobs and opportunity for United States citizens, that's weird. America first, that's weird. Not wanting illegal people to come into your country illegally, that's weird. According to this. So before you mouth off like that, Kamala, the next day you better have your little butt in Chicago, which you didn't, and face Donald Trump face to face. The next one, little Missy Rachie Scott come up with, it's the whole DEI hire. Calling Kamala Harris a DEI hire, diversity, equity, and inclusion hire, is being very kind. Willie Brown's out with the new, what is it, in New York Post or Politico, one of them, rolling out the story of Kamala, 29, who was sleeping with Willie Brown, 60, probably at the time the most powerful political figure in the state of California and probably one of the top 3 of all time. Started her career because she was screwing him. That's the fact, Jack. Here's a little Rachie Scott with her little diversity play. Here we go.
Supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to...
Darn right, Missy, it's acceptable language, Miss Scott. Because James Clyburn guaranteed, said, I will deliver you, Joe Biden, South Carolina, and get you president, but you got to hire a black woman. We don't care who it is. Now, what is that? Is that not a quota diversity, equity, and inclusion or whatever. Doesn't matter if she's dumber than a box of rocks. Doesn't matter if she turned criminals loose by the dozens, by the millions, by the 100,000s in the state of California. Doesn't matter. She wrongly accused a black man multiple times, but one in particular, when she first started, a black man who was innocent. Put him in jail for 7 years and cost the city, county of San Francisco $13 million for the Vice report. Darn tootin', it's a quota. This is why you don't have quota hires. This is why Ward Carnerly got 209 to get quotas out of our university system in California. Because it's stupid. And it leads to stuff like this. And it leads to ding-dongs like Kamala Harris that couldn't add 2 and 2 together and give you the correct answer.
To stop it.
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
Diversity, equity, inclusion.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
Give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir,
of
I'm
that.
asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me if you
I
would.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage. And
Of course, and Willie Brown puts it, I think it's in the Politico article. Yeah, 30 years ago, back when Kamala was screwing Willie Brown, and Willie Brown was one of the most powerful figures in California. Steve Wynn, the big Vegas hotel magnate, said, you know, if I was getting something done, or I want something done in California, get Willie Brown. Everybody else talks about it, he can get it done. So Trump flew out here. Willie says Kamala wasn't in the exact meeting, but she was there, flew on Trump's plane with Willie when Willie, as he was introducing Kamala as my steady at the time. So yeah, Trump, like you have to do if you want to get something done, he's writing checks to Kamala Harris. Why? Most likely because Willie Brown's saying, hey, in 2014, she's running for Attorney General, or whenever it was, 2010, I don't remember. Got to get my girl elected here. Start writing some checks. Voila, Trump's projects probably most likely got approved. Oh my. Let's get to the brass tacks. That's how business is done. That's how political business is done. And you can talk about Republicans all you want, and they're probably just about as corrupt too. Democrats got their hands out or are more corrupt in with big business, big developers, big anything else, because this Big Daddy Jesse Unruh, the preceding guy who was the Speaker of the Assembly of Willie Brown, said money is the mother's milk of politics. He understood it. Willie Brown understood it. Everybody that's in the game understands it. Just like when Joe Biden lost, Iowa and New Hampshire. He goes crawling on his knees to Jimmy Clyburn, says, you got to deliver me South Carolina in 2020. Jimmy Clyburn said, I will do it, but you're going to have to put a black woman as vice president. And Joe Biden says, yes, sir. Jimmy Clyburn delivered. Biden got elected, nominated for the Democratic nomination, and put Queen Kamala Harris, about the dumbest individual you could ever come up with. I hope she makes all you ladies proud. I don't know how any self-respecting woman could support Kamala Harris. I wouldn't care if you agreed with her or not, politically. Let's talk about the personal basis of this. because you can't change that. So they're all trying to play the race card, and they're trying to do that, and little Rachie Scott's over there and trying to play, oh, I got bigger balls than Donald J, and I'm going to ask these tough questions and all that. There's another Donald in Kamala's life. Donald Harris happens to be Queen Kamala's dad. This is in Newsweek. Back in 2009, when she was first running for the presidency in 2020, Kamala Harris' father slams her fraudulently stereotyping Jamaicans with pot comments, accuses her of pursuing identity politics. This is in Newsweek. I don't believe part of the vast right-wing conspiracy, as they say. I mean, what incarnations could you have a more damning report than your dad coming out and say, you're playing identity politics? Of course, she'd run and smoke pot and admitted that during the campaign. She said, "How my family from Jamaica," during an interview last week, that after she publicly criticized for fraudulently stereotyping Jamaicans as pot-smoking joy seekers and accused her, the Queen Kamala, of the candidates of pursuing identity politics. Donald Harris, a retired Stanford professor, and I think as the New Yorker said, Marxist economist from Stanford in California. Oh, is this a surprise? He was doing this for the Breakfast Club radio show in Jamaica, where he now lives, I believe. My dear departed grandmothers, as well as my deceased parents, must be turning over in their grave right now to see their family's name, reputation, and proud Jamaican identity being connected in any way, jokingly or not, with fraudulent stereotype, a pot-smoking joy seeker, and the pursuit of identity politics, he said in a statement to the Jamaican Globe Online last week, and that was back in 2019. Speaking for myself and my immediate Jamaican family, we wish to categorically disassociate ourselves from this travesty, Donald Harris added. Not only that, in the Politico article, paraphrasing, but Willie Brown says Kamala Harris is basically dumber than a box of rocks. He said, if Kamala gets elected, she's probably going to deport me. Kamala Harris on Willie Brown. She won't even mention his name. The guy that got her started in politics. The guy that's responsible for her career. Getting appointed to the boards. Getting elected as district attorney in 2004 in San Francisco. Getting Donald Trump to write checks to her campaign for attorney general in California in the 2000s. Because Trump needed a project, Willie Brown was powerful enough to get it through politically. That's how the game is played. The green knows no color of the skin tone of your brown, the sex you are, how you identify, or nothing else. It has no conscience. It doesn't care. It's there for only one purpose, and that's to make itself grow larger. It's absolutely astonishing. The whole makeover they're trying to do to Kamala. Kamala will self-destruct. As Willie Brown said, just like Hillary Clinton. And that's why I said Donald J. was going to be president in 2016. And I said here recently, well, they may have found somebody that's more hated than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, more hated than Hillary Rotten Clinton. I wouldn't have thought that. That's why we've had the reports, her own staff from California to Washington.
Found on the KMET website.
All points in between.
15 seconds, 15 seconds.
They hate her guts. Everybody that's worked for her, practically. As Jesse said, he must have caught that pressing the wrong buttons for me.
3 seconds, here we go.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience in the Evil FB Network and Rumble and YouTube. Check us out and subscribe on both. We like YouTube better, but hey, if you like YouTube, they seem to like me now, so what can you say? Maybe I'm getting more lovable in my old age. Who knows? You look at the press enterprise, though. I mean, I got to admit, I point my finger a lot. You look at that article in the School Bond of that. I was a little animated that day, I will admit, as I can do it sometimes, but it's something else. Kamala calling out Donald J. over, you're too chicken to debate face-to-face. Today, his opponent as Donald Trump, in the hood in Chicago. Donald Trump showed up. No Kamala. One day after calling out Trump, that's how disingenuous that broad is. Her dad's called her out. Willie Brown's called her out. And all the reports. Now, what do you think's true? All those reports that say, what? When she first started, within a year after she was vice president, 90% of her staff quit. It's amazing. It's amazing. To the extent that the crazies will go to cover for, to lie, to cheat, and steal like nothing, like nobody's business. They will do this time and time again. It's absolutely stunning. As we usually do on a Wednesday, we have the famed editorial writer, columnist for the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts, more important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley, Wyoming Newswire, Leroy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you.
So one day after Kamala Harris and her new makeover, and they must have coached her, you're going to be badass in Atlanta, Georgia. You're going to call Donald Trump out and say he won't come face-to-face and debate with me. The next day, today, as Donald Trump said, he was at the meeting, at the ambush, let's put it that way, but in the hood of Chicago. He shows up and said, where's my opponent? Joe Biden had agreed to be in here, so just like she's trying to run the same thing, she no-shows in the hood of Chicago because the boys in the hood, the boys and girls in the hood, have been teed off over Kamala Harris, the border czar, appointed head of that, and they're saying, what the blank is going on here? You're cramming all these illegals on us, as us in California and Texas and Arizona have been for decades. They're a little bit miffed. she knows. If she'd have walked into there, she'd have been walking into a minefield, and she knows there's no possible way she can handle it. Explain to me how the disingenuousness of that group, that population, those ones that are trying to feed us this, Susan Shelley.
Well, this is just an amazing appearance. Donald Trump was so awesome. He was just taking no crap from anybody. and he was, the opening question was so hostile. It was this list of sort of, are you still beating your wife type questions. And he wouldn't even engage with it. He said, that is the rudest thing I've ever, I come all this way. You keep me waiting 35 minutes and you don't even say hello, nice to see you. You just launch in with this. And then he answered the question by extolling his record, and of course the reporter from ABC News didn't care for that, but he wouldn't back down, and it was so much fun to watch it. And as you said, Kamala Harris did not show up, and he called them out on that, and it was just really remarkable. I can't help but think that her entire campaign is like a media public relations campaign. There's no there as far as the voters are concerned. It's all ginned up with these paid influencers and these paid followers and these paid magazine covers. And the actual level of enthusiasm, I think, is more measurable back when she ran in 2020 and she had to drop out before the Iowa caucus.
This is how nuts I am of that. I listen to other talk radio shows. I listen to the other side. Happened to be listening to Gary and Shannon on KFI right when this is going on. And Gary and Shannon are melting down. Oh, Trump's melting down. He's committing political suicide. Those two had the exact opposite reaction of you and I did of that. And I'm thinking, And I'm thinking, because I'm not watching it, I go back and watch it, and I'm having the same reaction as you. They should have said that was, and Trump was exactly right. That was the most impolite. Impolite. That was a set up political ambush at least I'll give them credit. At least they weren't bashful about it. They put it right out there, Susan.
Well, I think everyone who's been a Republican candidate in California and has ever sat through an editorial board interview has had this experience where the opening question is something like, aren't you embarrassed to be a Republican? Or aren't you embarrassed by the such and such in the platform? Or aren't you embarrassed by Donald Trump? Or do you support the January 6th riot? Or, it's some question like a gotcha that's totally off the topic of what office you're running for and what you're going to do in that office. It's just like, how can we link you to what we think is the most unappealing thing? When I was a candidate, the question was about, it was before Donald Trump, and the question was about the government shutdown. Aren't you embarrassed to be associated with a party that has shut down the government? Well, no, because they shut down the government for good reason. We talked about what the reasons were, but that's the gotcha that they all do. So he's just so used to this, and he's so media savvy. We have never had a person in public office, I don't think in any public office at any level, who has been as media savvy as Donald Trump when he first got into this, and he's even better at it now. And what he did in this interview is he raised the issue of Kamala Harris not really having sold herself as being African American until it was convenient 4 years ago. So she has her Jamaican heritage and she has her Indian heritage, and she was selling the Indian heritage up until she wanted to be Joe Biden's VP and win in South Carolina, and then all of a sudden she was going to African Methodist churches and pretending she knew what was going on. So he called her out on that, and he knew that would be bait for the media. He knew that they would be outraged by that. How dare he? And sure enough, they all bit. They all took the bait. Oh, they're outraged. How dare he? Only Kamala Harris can say who she truly is and her identity. Well, yeah, she can, but if you change it, Elizabeth Warren said she was Indian and she's not, so that's fair game, isn't it? And this is the skill that he has, because now it's the headline all over the place that he said Kamala Harris isn't really black, which is obviously a very potent argument to make to undercut her with the black community, which she is courting very heavily right now. So I think it's kind of politically brilliant, although everybody in the media just falls for it and then they criticize him. But if you step back and you look at the outcome, he's very shrewd.
The next one that came up on that was the Rachel Scott of that said, "Oh, well, do you believe Kamala Harris is a DE hire?" And I say, "Damn right she was." Joe Biden had to go crawling on his knees to Jimmy Clyburn after he lost Iowa and New Hampshire and say, "Can you deliver that? Can you deliver South Carolina?" And Clyburn said, "Yes, but you're going to have to put a black woman on as vice president." Joe Biden got the nomination, and he did. And if you look at Kamala Harris's record, nobody, from falsely accusing and imprisoning black men in her first prosecutorial role in San Francisco to letting in illegals by the dozens and proliferating crime under Prop 47 on all of us Californians, she is the least woman qualified to be running a sewer cleaning commissioner, much less president of the United States. She was definitely a DEI hire, and she should be the poster woman for why you don't do quota hires, Susan Shelley.
Absolutely. He said he had to, he said before he appointed her, before he nominated her, he said that he was going to choose a black woman to be vice president. He narrowed it down. No one who was outside that category was eligible to be Joe Biden's vice president. It was going to be a black woman. He said he would do that. He was under pressure from activists, and he caved in, and he said he would do that. And then he considered Karen Bass, who at the time was a congresswoman, and he considered Kamala Harris, who was a senator, and he considered a few other people. And if you remember, there was kind of a sleazy attack on Karen Bass saying that she was a Castro lover and pulling up these old quotes about the death of Castro and sending her condolences to the people of Cuba and this sort of thing. Well, that apparently came from Kamala Harris's campaign, from her consultant, that those things were all dredged up and leaked. So she had a little intra-party knife fight to get Karen Bass out of the way and be named vice president. But no one who was male and no one who was a different race was eligible. So if that's not a DEI hire, what is?
100% on that. One of your columns this week, Joe Biden's disappearing act, Susan Shelley.
Yes, that was quite a week where all of a sudden, Joe Biden disappears from the campaign trail. There's some sort of a medical incident when he's in Las Vegas, and they rush him to the plane and they take him back east. They were going to take him to a local hospital, but then they took him back east instead. And he goes to Delaware, and he's not heard from. And on Sunday, up pops this image of a letter that he supposedly wrote and signed, but it's not actually his signature. And nobody saw a picture of him signing it or even reading it. And it says he's getting out of the race. And then there was another tweet shortly thereafter that said he was endorsing Kamala Harris. And then everything went screwy. There were some people who endorsed her right away, and then Barack Obama did not. And the New York Post reported that he was holding out for Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, because he didn't think Kamala Harris could win. But then, of course, he denied that, and he endorsed her on Friday morning, I believe. And it was the screwiest thing. What a weird week. And then all of a sudden, you've got all these media companies that are deleting old stories about her that are not favorable, even things that are just sort of neutral and nonpartisan, like GovTrack, which had called her in 2019 the Senate's most liberal senator. They deleted that. And things are disappearing from the internet. Some Axios article disappeared from the internet or was corrected. It was the whole border czar story. Oh, she wasn't the border czar. She was never the border czar. Yes, she was. There's clips all over the place that she's the border czar. So it was just very weird, but it does have the look of a professional public relations campaign, complete with the damage control and the pressure on editors and all of this. It looks like a professional PR campaign, but you can't run for president with a PR campaign alone. You have to get out and talk to the voters, and she is not capable of doing that or holding a real press conference or sitting for a real interview. She's very bad under the lights, and there's plenty of clips from the last couple of years that show what she's like when she's in front of a microphone. It's a sad spectacle.
Seymour Hersh, the Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, came out with an article, and boy, is this thing getting suppressed. And he said, yeah, Saturday, even Sunday morning, nobody in Joe Biden's camp knew. They thought it was full steam ahead, that then all of a sudden he puts out that letter you're talking about, and then he puts out, within seconds on the X machine, yeah, and I'm endorsing Kamala Harris. I think on Tuesday, right after that, because that what broke on Friday or Saturday or Sunday morning, something like that. On Tuesday, yours truly on this show said, Barack Obama got double-crossed. The deal was that he was not supposed to endorse Harris. Joe Biden was doing that as an FU, going out the door, if you're going to force me out. And as Seymour Hersh said, Barack Obama told, or according to his report, told Joe Biden, if you don't step out, we are going to invoke the 25th Amendment and you are not going to finish out your term. So that was the whole deal, and I put that out. And then Hersh comes out with his story. Now I'll just let everyone try and figure out or speculate how I knew this before that. But I had reported that before Seymour Hersh did, and then he did. And then, and I can get, nobody's going to pay attention to me. But Seymour Hersh is a Pulitzer Prize winning columnist, very well respected. And the Mockingbird media is, you got to dig on search engines to try and find this article. That's how deep they buried it, Susan Shelley.
Wow. Well, it's a very interesting story. I think you're right that Barack Obama did that and threatened with supposedly he threatened Joe Biden that Kamala Harris was on board with the 25th Amendment, and if he didn't step down from the campaign, they were going to remove him from office. But if you think about it from the point of view of the welfare of the country, this is a terribly, terribly unethical and terrible thing to do, because if he's capable of being in office, then that was an abuse of power for Kamala Harris to say, I'm going to remove you from office if you don't endorse me for the presidency in the campaign. That's unethical. And if he's not capable of doing the job of president, it's unethical to leave him there and not do the 25th Amendment. We just had a situation where there were these assassinations that Israel carried out against terrorist leaders. And a statement came out from the White House from the spokesperson for the National Security Council, because there's no president. There's nobody in the Oval Office. So the statement of support for Israel came out from the National Security Council spokeswoman. I've never seen that before. These things always come out from the president or the State Department or the Defense Secretary. But to have it come out from the spokesperson for the basically anonymous council, that was just odd. We don't have a president right now. And it's weird that they didn't remove him from office. They just said, we want you off the campaign because you can't win and you're going to drag down the ticket. That is just very strange.
And then another thing, and I touched on before we get to your other column of that, this whole weird thing that they're trying to paint Trump and J.D. Vance. We got Rachel or whatever the heck his name is, the admiral, and one day he's in a dress, the next day he's in a suit and all this. And then that other guy that they finally fired who was ripping off or something of that. He was bald-headed with a dress on it. This guy was really not. And that's not weird. None of this stuff is weird. But J.D. Vance, who has a wife and 2 kids, the typical all-American family and all that. And actually, if you want to go diversity, equity, and inclusion, how are you going to not say that isn't? I think JD's wife is Indian, just like Kamala. So what the heck? What the heck? This is how, I don't know why they're not turning the tables 100% on this stuff. I think that's part of the strategy. They want you to think what is normal is weird and what is weird is normal. And that's what we've been living this for decades, but I think they've really perfected it under the COVID con. But what say you, Susan?
Well, it's the sort of a smear that doesn't meet any facts. You know, you can call somebody weird. That's a very junior high school kind of thing to say. You're weird. And it doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't require any knowledge or any information or any footnotes or any news stories. It's just a smear. It's just a schoolyard taunt. And to see the Mockingbird media, as you put it, repeat that for days on end is kind of creepy. And what are we doing here? This is the government of the United States of America. We should be talking about the issues and the qualifications and the disagreements on principles or whatever it is we disagree about or don't disagree about. We should be discussing that, and not this childish insult comedy. It's very strange, but my guess is they don't really have anything that they can attack him with, because he's got a sterling record. He's got a military record. He's got a record as a venture capitalist, as a Yale law student, as a senator, and he's not even 40 yet. And what do they have that they can use against him? Nothing. So they're just calling names. It's, they call Trump Hitler. Trump is not Hitler, but they call him Hitler. There's nothing about Trump that's like Hitler, and they continue to do it because they don't have anything with which to attack him. If they go to his platform or they go to his record, it's all pretty good, very popular. And then you have this remarkable story from the assassination attempt where he was just so cool under pressure, so incredibly courageous to look out to the crowd and see how concerned they were and insist on giving them a signal that he was okay and that the movement was okay and that we were all going forward together. That was so inspirational that even people who don't like or support Trump were moved by it. You can't fake that. That was genuine courage. That was genuine leadership, worrying about what other people were thinking at that moment and how he was going to reassure them. That was remarkable. And so unless this election is the crookedest thing since Mayor Daley's Cook County, I don't see how anybody beats Donald Trump in this election, and especially now that RFK Jr. is going to be on the ballot probably in all 50 states. He's very close. And you would think that if you're a Democrat, you're a hardcore Democrat, and you can't stand Kamala Harris. And people will get to that point. They're going to get to the point where they can't stand Kamala Harris, because we all got to that point with Kamala Harris. There will come a point where the Democrats will look at their ballot and they'll see Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And if you're a Democrat, that's a magical name. And he's going to do some business. There's no way around it. He's going to take some votes from her, no question.
We got a couple minutes left. Your other column I wanted to touch on was the breakup of the Department of Homeland Security, Susan Shelley.
George W. Bush did this to us. He's after the 9/11 attacks, he merged a bunch of government agencies, 22 of them, into one cabinet department. He started out with an executive order in the White House, and then the next year there was legislation, and it moved the whole 22 agencies, including the Secret Service, into one cabinet department. And it's been a disaster. Instead of having clear lines of authority in multiple departments where people could argue about a policy and hammer out the right answer, we've got this top-down decision-making with no brakes on bad decisions. And what we've ended up with, instead of protecting freedom, it's become the center of a censorship operation in the Homeland Security Department. It's overseeing the Secret Service now, which used to be in the Treasury Department, and how's that working out? Not too well. There have been so many problems, and I really think that whole department needs to be broken up. I think it was a mistake. I think this is why pencils have erasers, and we should put everything back where it was.
Thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do this again next week.
Thank you, Roy.
You got it. Susan Shelley saying it only as she can on that. Man, it's a heck of a deal going on of this whole thing, but man, I agree with Susan. Either this is going to be the most crooked. It's going to have to be, for Trump to lose, it's going to have to be the crookedest election of all time for any reason of that. I just don't see. She's not even moving the needle. The only graphic she's moving is black women. That's it. As you know, I've been talking about standing up for our country, doing something. These big box stores stayed open while the little guys closed. Will our voices be heard? Does voting with our dollars work? PatriotSwitch.com gives patriots the power to walk away from the big box stores forever. Stop supporting the enemies of freedom now. That's why PatriotSwitch.com was created, for those who support America. PatriotSwitch.com. Is your car doing the hucklebuck and afraid you will be stuck? Well, head on down to Toyota of San Bernardino, Nissan of San Bernardino, Subaru of San Bernardino, in the San Bernardino Auto Mall, and catch a Camry, look ravishing in a Rogue, or be styling in a Subaru. Don't forget I-10 Toyota in Indio for those of you in the lower desert. You deserve to be the happiest human on the planet. So head on down to one of these 4 great dealerships for the car of your dreams. Spread the word. IE Newswire is now on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 p.m. on Rumble and KMET 1490 AM, 5:30 to 6 p.m. Join all the cool kids who want an eclectic look at the news without all the filters of the evil scoundrels of social media and the despicable dorks of the dominant press. Don't bumble and stumble. Subscribe to IE Newswire on Rumble and roll with the best hillbilly hoedown around. That's it. If you want to buy American, go to PatriotSwitch.com. If you need a new Subaru or Toyota, go to one of Cliff Cummings' great dealerships at San Bernardino Auto Mall at the 10 and 215 freeways. Forget I-10 Toyota down in the lower desert. Man, on Hump Day, what a week it's already turning into. I think you're going to see with the articles coming out, Willie Brown being the latest in Politico, I believe it was. There's one coming out, or one out in the New Yorker. These are not part of the vast right-wing conspiracies. They know Kamala. They can't prop this horse up for another 98 days. They're already losing it 10 days into Joe announcing and whatever of that. All you have to really do is let Kamala roll. Just like that. Oh, yesterday she's mouthing off, oh, Trump's scared of me. Look who's scared. Doesn't show. In the hood in Chicago. In a deal put together by your buddies, your supporters. Go back to CNN. 2016 and Hillary and the debate. And CNN gives Donna Brazile, which was the right arm to Hillary, all the questions coming up for the debate against Trump. They're running scared. And I think the evidence, I believe, clearly shows Joe Biden did double cross Barack and said, okay, it ain't me, I'll give you Kamala. That'll do it for today. As we usually say this time, mandatory, you're back here for 23 hours wide. You hear the best car show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow.